book says you get a lot of mail from people who want to follow you still.
Follow me? Did you have any choice? You'll all follow me. Let's get something straight.
Abandon all free thoughts and hope upon a cold table at free clinics with the highest cost. We cherry-pick studies and fictitious findings and deem them as undisputable fact. We are manipulated into taking cures that could possibly spread further sickness. We were once a people of innovative thoughts and courage. Now, here we are, running back inside as soon as Big Daddy calls us. Virtually adventurous, mentally inferior. I present to you a mirror filled with darkened auras, instant enemies, pre-selected presidents, and half-ass hacks of common sense, dumbed down as we drown in the tides of our own undoing. The lies once found so amusing directed us off path and into cells with unlocked doors we choose not to open. Hiding behind the same walls we protest, protecting us from ourselves. We have become such idiots that we criticize, demonize movements, downsizing, upliftment, standing by domestic death squads, pouring ourselves cups of Kool-Aid, sipping apocalypse. A people that gave up on themselves, knocking down any of their neighbors that chose to take a stand. Flags waved from windows symbolize the oppression thought to have been left behind. Soapbox become auction block. We will scream on mountaintops about all the over there's you can think of and remain silent when it comes to the, when it comes to the day we have to lay our own heads on chopping blocks. Pendulums and axes and mandatory, maybe lethal injections approved by the same groups that never gave us shh about me or you. Unity was a commercial. We drown in aquariums, selfish, eager to enlist in the war on the economy, the war on trade, the war on taxation, the war on poverty, the war on domestic policy, the war on domestic violence, the war on the domesticated species, the war on alcohol, the war on drugs, actually the war on competition, the war on poor farmers that never resisted, gunned down with their families deep in the jungles of Catatumbo, the war on ghettos, the war on slums, the war on our government that provided these drugs, the war on addiction, the war on acceptance, the war on low self-esteem, the war on dreams, the war on opportunity, the war on your surroundings, the war on mental slavery, the war on mental health, the war on racism, sexism, classism, self-narcissism, idiism, a self-proclaimed victim can envision. The war on double standards, the war on labels, the war on depression, the war on antidepressants, the war on disease sponsored by the CDC, the war on the elite, the war on Big Pharma, the war of Farsi, the war of bureaucracy, the war of medical mediocrity, hospitals of malpractice and TikTok nurses, the war on politicizing and straight out lying, bastardizing our well-being, face masking us with false sense of safety, the war on lockdowns, the war on vitamin D, the war on misinformation, the war on restriction, the war on division, the war on loneliness, the war on the U.S., the war on us, the war within ourselves, the war on love, the war on unity, the war on cover-ups, the war on truth, the war on whistleblowers, the war on veterans, the war on their victims, the war on privacy, the war on assembly, the war on solidarity, the war on sovereignty, the war on polarity, the war on extremism, the war on political activism, the war between two parties exactly the same pretending to be so different, the war on obscenity and vulgarity declared by the same society selling these wars overpiling with real casualties without purpose, the war on our rights, a war designed by the left and the right, the war on self-expression, the war on mannerism, the war on thought, the war on fashion, the war on TV, the war on the media, the war on slander, the war on propaganda, the war on the propaganda selling more war to your children, the war on the military-industrial complex, the war on funding wars we didn't even know we were fighting, the war on presidents refusing to kneel before our president, the war on culture, the war on privilege, the war on colonialism, the war on first, second, and third world, the war on people, the war on amendments, the war on human rights, the war on Africa, which is actually the real war on the environment, the war on crime, the war where we decide who to call the victims and who to call the criminal and how to turn the citizens against the actual victims, the war on authority, the war on an authority that wages war upon its unprotected citizens, the war on immigrants, the war on Texas finally returning Texas back to Mexico, the war on Palestine, the war on unwelcome settlers, the war on sanctions, the war on everyday harsh realities, edited by news stations, the war on Western resistance, the war on regimes, the war on occupations, the war on treason, the war on freedom's definition and its delusional modifications, the war on religion, the war on God, the war on crypto-Christians, the war on Zionism, the war on supremacists, the war on all of you pretending to be offended, the war on individualism, the war on capitalism, the war on communism, the war on terrorism, the war birthed by the unquenched thirst for vengeance against the men that slaughtered their entire village, the war on those that just want to be left alone, the war abroad, the war at home, the war brought by strangers referring to those in their own homes as invaders, the war on friends, children, and families that accidentally walked under a madman's drone, the war on the man that had this exposed, a war without movement, a war unspoke, a war on imagination created by another's imagination, a war on war, a war on serfs serving the wrong lords, a war on those that question, a war on critical thoughts, a war on those that won't dress as a character or answer to a slur to fall into a particular group, a war on figuring out which side to take so you won't lose any more friends from meaningless, petty arguments, the war on currently refraining from using keywords such as talking points, all lives matter, what if it were the other way around, think of the children, Nazi, hippie, super spreader, pro-vaxxer, anti-vaxxer, deplorable, liberal, obey, pray, slave. Anyways, a war that has no end. A war that could just end if we never fall so in love with an idea that you cannot question it. Never be so moved that you can no longer retrace your steps. Tears will water stillborns and memories will keep them alive. 50 dream states plagued with nightmares. Falling down rabbit holes filled with rabid souls, babbling unclear messages like parakeets we chirp and others absurd ramblings. A new disease, a new fear, a new enemy, a new reason to stay inside. A people stricken with pride, false flags strapped to the sides of cars, vehicles, stars, unreachable, out of touch, Babel's elevator, out of order, stairway to heaven, crumbling. Have you guarded your flock or sold them to processing plants? Mary had a little lamb. I can't think straight until I learn to move the mountains before me within the maze of an unforgiving desert. Too hard to get these thoughts across the border. Thwarted thought equals limited imagination. Individuals equal was only a slogan. Why are equal individuals seen as a problem? The answer is right in front of you. Edited truths, forbidden fruits, slave labor justified by favors given to large corporations, plantations, placing a price on all of us, all of you, all in together now in a sinking rusty boat turned away from South Florida shores. The American dream should be replaced with the American reality. We place our trust in the powers that be, so happy about pandemics and drugged out war is business. Our armed forces holding guns to our heads. I stop time by not watching. Space is only for wealthy astronauts. Got lost in a crowded stadium, an audience of judging eyes, everyone talking at once, a chorus of confusion, a tone-deaf anthem. Hope and change, ropes and chains, a desert deserted, a people executed, a culture cultivated by cult. The mirage was a disappearing village turned mining industry. We have forgotten our roots, many never really knew them. We can only travel forward through the wilderness of natural beats and poetry, blind by spotlights in city streets, concrete and slave stolen land, a large altar of sacrifices of the millions, of the innocent, of the untrained, walls stained with images of another time, telling tales of tomorrow, drinking the blood of slaves, drunk off oppression, a great depression, corroding broken hearts of a broken people. A baby's first word was love. Last word to be defined as indefinite, infinite isn't long enough. Invisible crowns of imaginary kingdoms. Careful not to get trapped in a fictitious universe brought about by another man's pen. Keep out the box and question your thoughts that spend in repetition, especially when other people start to say them. We watch people fighting people for unity, judging others for uniforms, writing book reports without ever reading their story. Students become the teachers' science experiments. We are being injected with placebos and promised a forever obese doctors selling us what's good for our health in form of sluggish deterioration, becoming a nation of hypochondriacs and comatose cowards. The only signs of life are heartless heartbeats. When the slave calls himself free, the master can't keep from laughing. They're lunatics providing therapy sessions for lost children. We are calling survivalists terrorists, and terrorists freedom fighters, and actual terrorists are friends. Right now, somewhere on this planet, a young child is learning how to ride his bike, another is learning to drive, another throwing their first pitch at an Israeli tank. in memory of fattest odor, not even 15 years old, reality of war. Tell me where your freedom lies. Slavery is truth, I've said it before. Serving the wrong lords. Currently, U.S.-led death squads practice latest stage of abortion on Afghanistan children. Thousands have fallen while protecting fields of opium. This was never really about terrorism. That was just an unfortunate side effect. The real winners were Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Boeing. All taxes are being given to entities fast-forwarding apocalypse. All taxes are being pocketed by hospital directors and big pharmacists. All taxes are being given to grieving families of fallen soldiers that were pushed into senseless wars by senseless leaders, thoughtless, godless demons. Donald J. Rumsfeld, may you burn in hell. So is it stop Asian hate or war with China? I promise you, not one person directly responsible for any given reason will be harmed. More civilians will die for no good reason. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan speaks of compassion for human rights. Blood will cover his helping hand and soon coming genocide. Heritage becomes statistic. Name become number. On the count of 3, stop or I'll shoot. The U.S. military is currently burning hordes of unwanted firefighting foam and low-income neighbors, toxifying the air. They are failing to disclose every military dump site responsible for poisoning South Carolina's poisoned children and many more. They are releasing massive amounts of carbon emissions. They are stripping our planet's insides and expecting it to continue to work for us. Soon there will be radiated traffic lines to charge cars while driving. U.S. Navy war games killing whales and dolphins, maybe even accidentally bringing down buildings filled with people still sleeping. Cottonmouth polar bears, catfish last breath, Mother Nature is thirsty. Remind me again just how much the government loves us. We don't need to go as far as Russia or China to magically pull enemies out of our hats. We believe we are the heroes of this movie. We believe another's reality is our movie. We get lost in rom-coms, a stranger's loved ones lost by our bombs. We have been caught up in this for far too long, so long that we can no longer give an accurate account of who is evil and who is good. We are a species misunderstood. We talk with our hands to blind men and grow upset when they don't understand. This is not about keeping us safe, but killing us in more creative ways. This is about making drawn-up blueprints look like mistakes. This is about having an apocalypse man-made. This is about scientists identifying as gods. This is about presidents sold to the highest bidder. This is about children taught by biased idiots with a grudge. This is about the blind allegiance to the powers that be, the darkest you will ever see. This is about walking outside to truly see behind the scenes of our edited versions of reality, of what it is to be so many versions of us, of self, of ourselves, trying to come together, trying to become together, just trying to be. Thank you.
Powerful and different. A big round of applause for Harry, please. It's Social Suicide, Ben and David Andre. Social Suicide, Ben and David Andre. Please prepare for your performances. Thank you. I think they do, Harry. Hey guys, we've got a performer. He's ready for you.
I got him. COVID-19 '84. Knock, knock on your front door. It's the CDC secret police. They'll inject you, you'll never be free. Take you to brand new camps. Friends and family turn in who ran. All lives matter, genocide in Afghanistan. Replacing people's fists with the government hand. Those that shout never again, gonna make sure it happens again. All in the name of liberty, all in the name of liberty, all in the name of supremacy. Behead the queen or we'll never be free, behead the queen or we'll never be free. Have you ever seen the way that they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen, I don't have no vocals tonight, seen the way that they break a horse's spirit with no care? Oh, have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit. A rope tied to a wooden post, approximately 2 feet. Center of a scorching sun, almost resembling the width of low-income house space. Almost like an office cubicle. Almost like the perimeter of freedoms we actually are free to practice. Conformists march with one purpose: protect thy master. And every leader is a religious fanatic, just like good Christian, leaning on that same wooden post, reading from the Bible. Freedom is a myth. No, freedom is a choice with much consequence. I mean, who wants to be told that we are wrong and that all future wrongs will never quite have a hold of the past? I mean, we could restore this nation's deficit, but that would mean one less movie, one less sports event, and much less profit. And today's prophets are zombies. Shadows of passing souls who possess mind control. We're living up to an ancient character's roles that's been done before. Witch hunters exiled plague this nation today. Grown by number, every new child, another contestant. Presidents mark the worth of their residents and legalize more and more antidepressants to control you through new scientific breakthroughs into another altered dimension. Children cry for more. Ignored by adults that cry for more than most because everything just simply isn't enough. There is more blasphemy in community church than there are pure thoughts running through a patron saint tainted by paper gods. Inanimate objects hold more worth than you are. Broke curfews, travel further than the earth's boundaries would ever allow me to, and so stories of a world retold through glorious fiction. Fairy tales prevail over yesterday's reality. And today's reality is touched up on TV. Isn't anything real anymore? American Idol's got more followers than their originators. Flat surface trapped in a square screen. We ran out of 3D glasses to drink an all-sided truth from. Never gonna run out of glasses of poison and unattentive youth. Picking locks of daddy's liquor cabinets cause it's easier to lie to the drunken than it is to sober and so-called conscious. Most know, but they will never show. And fear of being tied to a wooden post. Bugs get scarred and beaten for believing in themselves and not practicing beliefs in someone else. Change may not save, but change may help. Change may change these old ways, have them transform themselves into new days. The tomorrow's always promised, which never seem to have came, may just be today. But yesterday's thinker oversees the beauty of difference and marks it as a cancer. Overseas, the beauty of difference is marked as a cancer. And we think we got the cure. I can show you the way without speaking one word, but you don't like to be touched. Especially my great spiritual pastor said, discipline reps you to obedience. Confidence lessons whether he's snapped for the whip. Masochist seen as heaven goer. Extremist, the activist fighting opposing fascists in order to become another's fascist. Confusing the masses. No complete unity equals one more for the enemy. Divide the structure of a strong force which threatens to corrupt authority with an imbalance of power. And thinking to free people. Free thinking people thinking they free people. Controlled by alarm clocks, time clocks, big boss. Alarm clocks, time clocks, and big boss are our new God in his church and state. I see church and state designed wooden stakes for outcasts of the voice speaking in tongue. Who fighted first? Who is fighting first? Who do we really fight for? Who do we see from people to knock doors with island citizens praying for more tragedies to happen in order to justify the chaos they caused? This cross calls for the second child of God, a daughter of God. The sacrifice a woman makes, have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way they break a horse's spirit? Have you ever seen the way men break a woman's spirit? Thank you.
John, Noah, and Pia. John, Noah, and Pia, please prepare for your performances. And just a heads up, guys, either you keep the volume down or Harry will make sure that you will. So please keep your volume in mind when he's performing his poetry.
When the last martyr speaks, there will be an awakening from these backwards mentalities passed down from generations, and we will come to the realization that we really did take some petty just a little too far. We will see how fiction and art slowly began to rip apart a reality that realistically not one of us knew the first thing about. We will see how TV's taught hypocrisy. All we blamed them for was the same that formulated the very core of our own Babylonian superstructure. Concrete, godless cities could never be considered the heartland. Blood on the hands of Uncle Sam began to stain his hand. It was shook, and disorientated visions began to visualize the truth with flags, a motel room bed, secret meetings, this new world order, this self-righteous explorer had our children dying over silver quarters. We are taught to demonize rational thought, baptized by memorized words not of the spirit, but false gods, men that practice magic tricks on crowds of preoccupied citizens, their eyes fused with small screens, a limited vision. Authenticity is a limited edition. Too many covers with very little originals. All these covers without pages, no stories, Bibles of memes, gospels of idiots. We are trying to reset time but find errors in the programming. We are trying to rewrite reality but find we are illiterate. He speaks in tongues, she speaks on microphone, I speak to you. Break out your shell, break from this spell, the door to your cell is open. Come with us, a freedom forbidden, a culture, a body language, double masking, second guessing instinct by the space in between blinks, never questioning experts that have made a business out of lying to us. Blind trust is a thin security blanket incapable of protecting one from the sun or the dampness of a rainy night. So many halos, no city of angels like puppets we dangle ridiculous on strings resembling nooses. An elephant never forgets while a jackass kneels before a queen of damnation. This damnation, executioners, actors, cowards of obedience, freedom of speech, but everyone's silent, allowing what's happening to happen, refusing to resist. A blind man's taste test, a free man's lament, the death of a love song without a heart, the breath of Zeus exhaled from fallen buildings, invisible monsters and easily seen heroes. Although transparency depends on the frequency of a preset RPM, I be him, the man your mama warned you about, the one that won't sell you to an improper suitor while reminding you of your greatness on your lowest the moment, the plague of finance after starting over and over and over, the game over before ever holding the controller, can't control her. I know her, I've seen her, I've dreamed her. She came with me in dreams, she came to me it seems, but as she stood there, I kept falling, mind kept calling, thoughts to reconstruct themselves at the first minute of the following hour. Freedom is now, or so I'm told, sold to strangers as experiments, a drowning bear, a melting mountain, God's eye of the storm, an organic fury, a planet sinking, mindless mining industries, poisoning crops, child slavery, women disappearing near Coca-Cola factories, a disease seized by opportunists, a mental sickness, an unawareness to much more severe illness, a global stillness, unnecessary conflict, obituaries before birth certificates, the coldness of a fire, its last dance on warming waters. Earth's destroyers are blaming us for their factories, scientists blaming creatures for their disease. Authority claims they protect us yet neglect us soon as the order is given. Sovereign citizens commune in the realms of a dangerous fiction, self-inflicted victims of the highest of privilege, failing to understand they are not the deities they claim to be, and we are not the sheep to cross steep rocks on the skinned knees. I believe in belief and disbelief. I allow fate and destiny to intertwine through time and weave me in eternity, and forever cannot be as long as we speak a controlled language of doubt, passing off the unknown as inevitable, writing off stories of the dead no longer here to defend themselves unless we hold the correct seance. But a foolish pride has killed off all belief, and here we are, lighting candles and summoning the art of talking to ourselves. We are not the people we used to be. We are far from our ancestors. Our ancestors are not who they told us. Our gods have returned back to their home planet. We only remember what yesterday's architects want us to. We are but martyrs of logic and reasoning, poets, the prophets speaking the blues. We are given toys to distract us as they attack us psychologically. These breakthrough diets are designed to weaken us physically. They are teaching us to achieve defeat and suffer silently, worrying more about our image than our character, more concerned with social status than one's own self. Death of a stubborn pride, birthed by a blind allegiance, believing one continent to be the entire universe, blaming overseas for homegrown ignorance. Always choose evolution over revolution. No need to repeat this, but always choose evolution over revolution. No need to repeat this. The situation is not under control, nor will it ever be. You chose to be under control by those on imaginary thrones of control that are not in control, lost all control and sold your soul down by the river, conversing with serpents that had the answer for Adam's ignorance, burying the evidence by burning the women that possessed the power to save our homes. Mother Nature is being burned in prescribed fires by deniers of her existence. Mother Nature, by far the most powerful of all witches, goddess of all, forgotten by too many, objectified and exploited by opportunists. I challenge no God but the man that still believes he knows her. Sweet, sweet mother, forgive every blind bastard for these fathers that forgot how to raise sons, their children forever lost in the night. Good night.
So many businesses get hit, and so many people's lives go up in flames.
And we need your help.
Every night we learn a little bit more about ourselves and how to tactically approach these things.